Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is going to be very first video tutorial on MATLAB Basics video series. And in this video series, I'm going to consider that viewers of this video series should be the basic programmers, right? Or should be the very starting programmers in my MATLAB programming point of view, right? So if you are already an advanced programmer or you know somehow you can actually program in MATLAB, so this video series is not going to be useful for you. Rather, it can be a bit boring because I'm going to dive in the very basics of matrices and matrices algebra, and to understand the concept of the matrices elements in MATLAB programming and their importance, right? So if you are new to MATLAB and you are just starting the MATLAB, then this is the best video series for you. But if you are already a good programmer, please don't watch it because you will feel boring. And this video series, I'm actually designing it for my students who actually missed some part in my lab. Sometimes they need to recall certain concepts. So this video series is going to make a platform which will provide them a literature from which they can actually revisit every time they want to revisit any concept, right? So this is going to be the basic video series. This is the first point. The second point, I'm going to use MATLAB 2020, right? This is the MATLAB 2022 version, which you see in front of your screen. But before we start, we need to understand a very important fact about MATLAB. MATLAB is a very sophisticated and very high processing software. It has not only the command line to write some codes, but it has some built-in modules available for very high processing demanding fields like artificial intelligence, speech recognition, image processing, and many more. So this software is quite memory consuming and processing consuming, or it needs a lot of processing from your central processing unit or from your computer. So if you do not have a good specification of systems or you don't have high processing CPU, please do not use this MATLAB on your PCs, because if you are learning program language and your programming language is not going to run smoothly in your PC, so programmer won't feel comfortable. And if programmer will not feel comfortable, that means he won't be able to understand the real rhythm of the programming. So that is why MATLAB requires very high processing speed CPUs. So please do not run it on low specs. So what is the alternative? You can actually use Octave GNU. Let me write it for you. Right? You can use Octave GNU. Octave GNU is a free open source software which almost runs almost all the 99% commands of MATLAB. So whatever the command we are going to run in this video series or in coming video tutorials on MATLAB, you can actually run them on Octave. So what is the advantage of Octave? It's a free software. It's an open source software, while MATLAB requires a license, right? The second thing, MATLAB takes GBs of space on your hard drive, which means it is going to take so much amount of memory, and thus it will be slowing down your CPU if it is not high power or it's not high processing. So Octave, on the other hand, is just the recent version of the Octave, which actually I downloaded the last week, is around 378 megabytes, which means 0.37 GB, which is minimal or quite, I mean, usually in MATLAB comes in 16, 8 GB, 12 GB, 16 GB data size, while Octave is coming in just 0.37. That means it's quite minimal percentage of MATLAB. So that is why I will highly recommend Octave. So if you want to follow this video series, you can use both environment, MATLAB and Octave. And if you are having you can say that a low processing CPU, I will recommend Octave for coming commands, or for all the commands that I'm gonna show you in this video series, right? So in this video series, I'm just going to show you the you can say the environment of both MATLAB and Octave, and the basic components of the environment which we are going to utilize in this video series, right? So the very first component that you can actually see in this MATLAB environment is this command window. This is the command window. I hope you can see that. Let me, yeah, this is the command window. And this portion is basically command window, where you actually write some codes like A, B, C, A equals to something, B equals to something. That we are going to talk about. I'm not going to tell you what is the actual command itself, but it is the command window or the command line area where you actually write down your codes or write down your instructions, right? Or where you will notice some outputs of those instructions, right? So this is the most important area of your MATLAB environment. Next thing is more important is basically the directory where you are working, and that is here. This one. If you see C/Windows/System32, it's just a path of this directory where I'm actually working in. You can actually click over here. If you click over here, at this point, you can actually write certain path wherever you want to go in your hard drive. You can shuttle that path. So this is the path where you actually save your data or save your variables or are actually working in this specific folder, right? So this is very important and very critical to know in the programmer where in the hardware or in the hard drive you're actually working, right? The next component, which is important enough and very important, and with that component, with these three components in the command line and this directory, and this the third space is basically workspace, and that is the area of the workspace. What is it? It actually shows you the variable name and its the values. I'm going to show you in detail when I'm going to talk about the instructions, but this is another critical area where you can actually notice all the variables, all the recent data types you have created. It will be shown here with their names and their values. So this is a very cool, important area where you can actually have insight of those variables which you are going to create here, right? So these are the three important areas that we need to know about MATLAB if you want to follow this video series, right? Rest, there are some other important stuff because I told you MATLAB is a very high, very sophisticated software, high processing software. It has many other features. I'm not going to cover all those features in this video series. I'm just going to cover only the command line instructions and how you can actually be expert in those instructions and their understanding, right? So this is going to be the MATLAB environment. Let me show you the Octave environment as well. It will also help you to understand, and it looks quite similar to MATLAB. Let me show you. Okay. Okay, this is the Octave environment. If you open up the Octave GNU, you will have this environment in front of you. There are some details written about Octave GNU or GNU Octave, its version, its configuration stuff. I'm not going to read it for you because you can do it yourself. But this is the environment that you will notice here. But I want to tell you the basic stuff again that we discussed in the MATLAB environment, and that is basically this area. This is the command area. If you notice, this is the command window, and this is the command area where you will actually write, for example, let me write it for you. For example, over here, I'm writing A equals to, or ABC, or A equals to. So this is the command line area where you will actually write your commands, right? Again, after that, there is an important area which is known as workspace. As I told you over there, this is a workspace area. And in MATLAB, you can actually, when I show you in MATLAB, it was only the name and the value, but here you can see multiple features because in MATLAB you need to enable those features, but by default, Octave has enabled it for you. So it does not only show you the name, but rather it tell you the class of the data type, the dimension, the value, and the attribute. We are going to discuss these things later in very much detail later in the video series. But right now, it's more important to understand that this is the workspace where you can see your variables which you have recently defined and their values. So this is a critical area. So another important area which I discussed over there in the MATLAB is basically the directory or the place where you can actually change the directory. So if you notice, it says C users, Mohammed Nabi, this is my name. So basically, you can actually change the directory from here, right? Or you can click over here. You notice here that, let me show you again. This says current directory. So current directory is this one. You can actually click over this arrow and change this directory. So this is a place where actually data is being saved for you. So these are three important components. Beside these three components, Octave also have some kind of command history, which you are noticing over here. And since I've been running some codes earlier, so it shows me what codes and what programs I've been running, task one, convo task -3, something. So it shows the command history area, right? So it's sometimes it's very useful, and you can also use these things in MATLAB as well. But I showed you the very simplest environment and the very simplest particles, which are needed, components which are needed to make most out of this video series, right? So I've shown you the both environment, MATLAB, which is recommended for high processing CPUs, and Octave, which is quite economical in terms of processing speed. So it's up to you, whatever the environment you're gonna use. But the commands I'm gonna show you, or I'm gonna explain in this video series, are going to be helpful in both of the softwares, right? So that's it from this introductory video lecture of this video series. And from the next video, we will actually talk about the instructions. Thank you so much for listening.